Hi everybody, welcome to Water Quality Monitoring. My name is Sam, and I'm with the South Sound Green Program.
And I'm Maya, and I work with the Nisqually River Education Project.
And together, we created a few videos about water quality to help prepare you all for your upcoming water testing day. In these videos, you'll learn about watersheds, the importance of water quality, the different water quality parameters we test for, and the environmental and human factors that influence water quality.
With this information, you'll be more than ready to evaluate the health of our Puget Sound waterways.
Have fun! In this first episode, you will be formally introduced to watersheds. You'll learn the definition of what a watershed is, where you can find them, and how watershed health is very important for water quality. Let's start with the definition. What is a watershed? Any guesses? When you hear the word watershed, you may think of something like this: a literal shed full of water. While you could still probably consider this to be a type of watershed, for our purposes, a watershed is this. A watershed is an area of land that drains into a common body of water. This means that any water, from a raindrop to a snowflake to the water coming out of a garden hose, that falls within a specific watershed will end up in the same place, whether that's a river, lake, or even the ocean. And watersheds include everything that is on land. Animals, humans, farms, cities, cultures, traditions. They're all part of the watershed. Let's make an example watershed. Cup your hands like this. Let's call this the hand watershed. If any water falls onto hand watershed, where will it all go? Down to your pinkies. We'll call this Pinky Lake. But what about water that falls onto your thumbs, or what we'll call thumb mountains? If water falls on the inside of thumb mountains, it will flow into Pinky Lake. If it flows on the outside of thumb mountains, it will flow into a different watershed. This is how real watersheds work, just on a much bigger scale. This is the Puget Sound. Look familiar? If you're watching this video, you probably live somewhere around here. The Puget Sound is an estuary, which means that it has saltwater and freshwater mixing together. It's actually the second largest estuary in the country. The saltwater is all coming from here, from the Pacific Ocean, while the freshwater is all coming from the Puget Sound watershed, which is this area that is shaded in. Look how big this watershed is. It contains Seattle, Mount Rainier, Mount Baker, some of the Olympic Mountains, and all of the San Juan Islands in the north. Any rain or snow that falls on this land will all work its way towards the Puget Sound, where it will mix with saltwater from the ocean. And to be clear, the Puget Sound is limited to Washington State, but is part of an even larger body of water called the Salish Sea. The Salish Sea includes both the Puget Sound in Washington, shown in the blue box, and the Strait of Georgia in Canada. And because they are connected, the water in the Puget Sound can mix and interact with all of the water in the rest of the Salish Sea. Our Puget Sound watershed may be large, but the Salish Sea watershed is even bigger. Let's zoom in again on the Puget Sound. If we break it down further, you'll see that the large Puget Sound watershed can be divided into smaller regional watersheds. There are 14 large individual watersheds within the Puget Sound watershed, and many smaller watersheds within each of these. A snowflake landing in watershed number 10 may find its way into a different river than a snowflake falling in watershed number 11. But because both are within the greater Puget Sound watershed, eventually they'll both end up in the Puget Sound. So why should you care about watersheds if you're testing the quality of the water? Well, the quality of the water will depend on the quality of the watershed. As water moves through and across a watershed, it may pick up or transport materials on the way. This can include rocks, organic matter, pollution, and even dog poop. The exact impacts of each of these items on the quality of the water will be explored in a future video, but it's important to recognize that all water quality health starts with the watershed. Keeping watersheds clean and healthy will help keep our waterways clean and healthy as well. In the next episode, you'll learn from Maya about water quality and why it's so important. Thanks for watching!